Okay, here we have social policy and education. So when it comes to this key definition, a policy is a set of guidelines, a law, which has been introduced by government, usually with the intention of changing some form of inequality or issue. A social policy, more specifically, is more lower level, so it's governments, local authorities to address a specific social issue or problem. Direct impacts would be policies which directly affect a group or they have direct intended functions. Indirect would be policies which have an impact on a group or an individual, but that wasn't necessarily intended. When it comes to left and right wing policies, left wing governments often linked to Labour, more about supportive, a lot of money put into the system through increased taxes. State intervention is quite prominent, and when it comes to education, generally they favour greater diversity and more inclusion. Right wing, on the other hand, normally conservatives, education, when it comes to their views on education, generally they favour traditional methods and approaches to education. They tend to reduce financial support and funding for education. Education is a big political football. Most governments will use it as a means of gaining support or votes, and they will create various policies to influence education. As such, before 1979, loads of policies came in that changed education. It was a lot of back and forth between Labour and Conservative in terms of what happened. So Butler Education Act, the comprehensive systems, the tripartite system, which was the Butler education, education priority areas, and as I mentioned before, some of those indirect policies having an impact. So sex discrimination, equal pay, they weren't specifically education minded, but they had an impact on education nonetheless. New Right between 1979 and 97, again, some big policies. Now, they brought in vocational education, apprenticeships, again, predominantly targeted towards lower income working class children, and also the Education Reform Act of 1988, which caused massive changes to education and brought in loads of new policies, new ideas, and actually a lot of these have stuck. So national curriculum, Ofsted league tables, funding formula, and marketisation do still have quite a prominent place in education today. New Labour came in 97 under the platform of education, education, education. And again, they brought in loads of policies. Now, they did still favour marketisation, but there was a lot of financial support for lower income families. So particularly some of the key ones would be educational maintenance allowance, EMA, Sure Start, Aim Higher, and lots of the education action zones, which were later changed to priority areas. So lots of policies that kind of encouraged social mobility and progression from lower income background students. And then the Conservative, again, variations of the Conservative Party and the various policies between 2010 and present. Key policies might be stuff like academies, Aim Higher, tuition fees going up quite significantly. EMA was cut, Sure Start cut, Aim Higher kind of phased out. So a lot of these policies had quite a negative impact on students. And then when it comes to the DEAs, class, gender, ethnicity, a few kind of key policies here. So class, some of the policies that helped social classes would be comprehensive, EMA, Sure Start, and Aim Higher. Policies which had a negative impact when it came to class and difference achievement would be academies and free schools, marketisation, the tripartite system, and scrapping of EMA, Sure Start, Aim Higher, and the HE grants, all negative impacts. In terms of gender, policies which improved women's position. So removal of sexual stereotypes, teacher awareness of sexism, the national curriculum, GIST and WISE, and those equal opportunity and sex discrimination policies. Policies which may have had a negative impact on gender and girls is obviously removal of coursework and removal of coursework. Now, obviously, with this being in mind, just remember boys and girls obviously have different experiences of education. So some policies that are good for girls would have been bad for boys and vice versa. And when it came to ethnicity, lots of policies that helped ethnicity groups, ethnic minorities would be EMA, EAZ, Sure Start, Aim Higher. A lot of the features of ethnic minority groups tend to overlap with social class. And so, again, the policies which had a negative impact would have been the same ones, with the exception of the Young Gifted and Talented program, which is meant to support students of lower income backgrounds, but they predominantly were white students who were supported. And there we have social policy in just under 5 minutes.